you know, child exploitation, which I just talked a little bit about. I deal with the sex offender registry, so many of the registrants there are on there because of convictions with child pornography. Some are on there because of sexual convictions on girlfriends, on boyfriends, on wives, you know, casual acquaintances. But it is unfortunately a huge part of our society now. We need people to be aware of that. We need everybody to understand how easy it is for your pictures to be taken from Facebook, from any of the social networking sites that you may put them on. And then those pictures can be just photoshopped. It's so simple. It's called morphing in my police world, where they can take your face and add it to another picture of a naked body, morph it together. That naked body may be having sex with somebody else, or it's being violated by somebody else, but it looks like it's you. Okay, those kinds of things happen, and then that's how pornography is created and then distributed. So really, really think about what you're putting out there.
I think statistically, the child luring cases in Canada are 1%. All the rest are the pornography and the child exploitation and the pictures and everything that we are creating online. So there's really less of a fear of your child being abducted or lured. It's 1% in this country. So we really need to talk about all the other stuff that we're doing on the computer. And I think I read the paper every day this week. There was an incident. One was sexting, which Michelle will talk about, where a young girl in there was a dating situation where she took a nude shot of herself and sent it on her BlackBerry to her boyfriend. They break up. They're in high school. She's depressed, and she ended up graduating from high school and was supposed to be starting college, but committed suicide. So that's a reality of these things. It ate her up so much. The image is never going to go away. And she ended up killing herself because of that. Also, there was a man from Ontario, I don't know if anybody read about this, a 31-year-old man, not a bad-looking guy, has 3 young children and a wife. He lives in, I believe it was York region. And, did I say he's 31? 31 years old. He met a young lady in England. She's 15 years old, and they were chatting for 12 hours during the day. He worked for a big insurance company, Great West Life Insurance, and was having this sex talk with her and decides to go meet her. She doesn't think anything of it. She's 15 and thinks it's a joke. He shows up in England and he was arrested. He's on the sex offender registry there. I think he's been convicted. I think he's spending 2 years in jail, but probably he'll be back here. He won't be on our sex offender registry, but he will be in England. So this is every day we're hearing about this stuff, and people, I'm not sure what they think. Like, they don't think they're going to get caught, obviously. And then I think other people are naive enough to think that this is fun for some reason and enjoyable, and there's no way he's going to come here, nothing bad will happen, but these things happen every day in the media. We hear about them.
And the predators are out there because the internet gives them such a wide circle, you know, outside of their social circle, such a wide area to put themselves out there and see who they can get. And our pornography unit, the child exploitation unit, works diligently on this. And unfortunately, in our communities, there's many more than you'll ever be aware of. In Canada, we can't put it out like they can in the States. They're afraid of vigilante justice, if all of you guys knew who the offenders were. So we have to keep that private for them, and I struggle with that because I would love to tell you who they are, where they are, and what they've done. Because I think that needs to be known. But again, we're bound by our laws here, and as police officers, it's a struggle for us when we know that they're right there and what they're doing.
And that just makes it even all that more important that we need to take care of ourselves and prevent ourselves from being victimized. Be aware of what's going on in the world. So Fanshawe College, we're actually really lucky that we're at this college. I see this college in the way they discipline, and I would describe it as sort of a wraparound. We have police authorities, special constable officers do to enforce criminal, provincial, and municipal laws on campus. We work in partnership and we work under the London Police Service umbrella. So if we're doing an investigation on campus, It's very much about collaborative, and it really is obviously more so about the victim and protecting the victim, but we really wrap around even perpetrators in some situations, which is kind of a good thing, because if you were in the real world, you would just deal with police and they'd be done with you. And oftentimes between victim and perpetrator, there's a disconnect, and a lot of not healing happens. So we're lucky in the sense that Fanshawe does have that wraparound. We have every service available to us on campus. So some situations, Michelle talked about criminal harassment. That happens more often than not on campus. The difficult part of that particular offense, the victim has to fear for their safety. So if a person is being harassed and teased, and residents, for instance, sticky notes are being put up, name calling, those things happen on campus. It may not be a criminal offense in the eyes of courts and the law, but we have a lot of authority on campus where we can make sure that we protect the victim. We make sure, and if it comes to the point, some students will be suspended or possibly expelled for their behavior, because the student code of conduct policy is quite strong here, and make sure the victim will have counseling. I mean, our counseling services, they're phenomenal. If I'm dealing with something right this moment and someone needs assistance, they can get counseling right away. So the college, we're very lucky that we have all of those services. That's about it for that.
Obviously, the computers and the internet are a huge part of your life. I'm not a techie person, and certainly don't have the patience for it, partly because it hasn't been a part of my life, since I started school. But the majority of you guys, that's what's been there, right? And everybody is entrenched in it. You're doing it constantly, whether it's instant messaging, everybody's got their Blackberries and their iPhones, and they're sending messages constantly, and we can do it 24/7. We see the kids now in the schools being bullied 24/7. When I was in school, it happened at school, and you went home and you had a breather for the night, and you went back and took round 2. Now they can get you through, through Facebook, through instant messaging, through the telephone, through texting. It's crazy. So that's what people are up to. There's constant communication that way. Not as much verbal anymore. It's all through technology. And that's causing problems, because once it's out there, it's there for good. So whatever you communicate with people can be saved, can be copied, can be turned over to the police. So that's how we come to find out a lot of the issues that are happening. Trading of digital information, so the music and pictures and personal websites. We'll get into that in the next slide, but it's such a huge part of your lives, and social networking is it's phenomenal. It can be used for great good, but unfortunately we're seeing the bad that happens from it. Webcams are a huge problem, especially with young people. We're finding people don't realize that webcams can be turned on remotely. If you have a laptop and it's got the little eyeball camera in it, and you keep your laptop open, it could be turned on without you knowing it. And whatever you're doing in your room, wherever you have that computer, can be watched by other people. Webcams can also take still shots. So, when you're dancing around in your underwear, getting ready for the party, that still shot can be taken, and then that picture sent on to somebody else. So you need to be aware of these things. Make sure you have the proper security on your computer systems. Make sure your cameras are covered if they're not in use, so that these types of things don't happen to you and you become a victim unknowingly.
I forgot to mention about IT and how things work as far as security on campus. We have 200 cameras all over campus, in the residences. You're being watched constantly, and that's society as well. You can't go to the bank machine or the mall without you being watched, so you're being monitored all the time, and it's never deleted. We actually pay on campus. I'm in the control center, that's where my office is. We pay someone on Thursday, Friday, and Saturday nights to sit and watch the cameras. So if there's gatherings or you're partying in res, someone's watching you. And that's not to intimidate you in any way, that's for your safety. We want to know what is going on and hopefully prevent bad things from happening. That's a part of the camera systems. The elevators have camera systems.
And we use those in court when we're given that information. It's, you know, it's a no-brainer. You see it on television when there's been bank robberies or something like that. They have that video bit on them. So we have that as well. So if there's anything, if there's assaults, if there's sexual assaults, there's anything with weapons, it's on camera, and we can certainly take that and use that as evidence.
It's a little bizarre to me that people don't realize that we have those cameras. I mean, they're pretty obvious and you see them. And then people come to us when we either arrest them or question them, and they're, no, it wasn't me, it wasn't me. And then you show them the picture. Ooh, busted. So I think people forget that we have all of that. As far as computers, when I started here last May, a London police officer was hired as well in security. And we were actually very surprised. He was a London officer, so he knew a lot of the perpetrators and people in the city. And he was surprised at how many people came on this campus in the evenings, helped themselves to the computer labs, and surfed porn. Because the computers in September were basically free reign, anybody could use them, and they weren't monitored. And there aren't enough staff here to be everywhere, obviously, or security staff. So that has since changed. You now have to have a password, I think, everywhere now, if I'm not mistaken. So that computer will link to you. So whatever you're doing on that computer, that links to you specifically. And that's why you shouldn't share your passwords and that information.
Yeah, and you need to know that as well if you're off campus and you share an apartment with somebody. So maybe you share a computer, or they have your password and they can get into your sites. You need to know then if they're looking at child pornography, or they're distributing it, or anything like that, it's going to come back to you, and the onus is on you to prove otherwise, that it wasn't you on that time and date. So really don't share your passwords, and if you have to share a computer, make sure you have things locked down pretty good and have it separated in the sense that you each have your own logon and passwords to use, so that you're keeping yourself safe. Really, you can't 100% trust anybody anymore. It's sad that our society has come to that, but you need to think about yourself, put yourself first, and think about your future. So really make sure you know that. I kind of skipped over sexting. I didn't dwell on that. It is huge with our young people because it's so easy. With the phones that we have now and being faceless, it's easy to send out that message about what you want and when you want it. And unfortunately, that links right back into luring, and it links into many of the criminal charges that I talked about as far as sexual charges go. So really, really be aware of who you're sending the messages to, and understand that you have to have consent from that other end. If the other end says, screw it, I'm out, like I've had enough, I don't want any of this, you have to stop. Okay, because that's, again, it gets into the harassment piece, it gets into the luring piece, and you don't want any part of that. Kids are desensitized anymore because so everything is through technology. There's so much that's not face-to-face anymore until you finally have that meeting where you're going to act upon everything that you've texted, right? So be aware of what people want and make sure that there is 100% consent there, and that they are of the appropriate age to give consent.